Your sense of feeling like the effort is worth it begins and ends with how encouraging, supportive, and kind you are to yourself.
You have to become aware of it, and you have to realize that sometimes, like, the way you talk to yourself, like, believe it or not, it does impact us, and whether we want to admit it or not. I think sometimes people, when they're feeling so down about themselves, they have a hard time admitting that something in their life is going wrong, because they're already feeling so low that the idea of even having something bring them even down lower, like, scares the hell out of them, right?
Yeah, so let's break this apart. Let's role play here. Okay? So let's say you are what was the sport that you played as a kid?
I tried to play all sports. I wasn't very good, but I would say the sport that I was the most consistent with was basketball.
Okay. So little Doug is on the basketball court and there's a foul, and Doug is the person that is selected to shoot the free throw. And little Doug steps up to the free throw line. And then all of a sudden they call a timeout. And you come running back to the huddle. What would be the most empowering and encouraging and motivating thing that your coach or teammates could do or say in order to help you perform and feel your best when you step onto that line?
Like, I believe in you and you're going to make it.
I believe in you and you're going to make it. You got this. And then they send you back into that game with a high five, right? How would that make you feel, little 9-year-old Doug?
I'd feel pretty confident.
Right. Now, how would little 9-year-old Doug feel if when you came back to that huddle and you're about to go do this free throw, that your teammates are like, "Oh, him? He's a piece of shit. He screws everything up. Are you kidding me? What? What? Oh my God. Well, he shouldn't be the one that does." How would that make little Doug feel?
It would probably obviously make me feel like I'm not going to make the shot, so why even bother?
Correct. What you say to yourself matters.
Right.
And we understand that from a common sense perspective. But somewhere along the line, we have all stopped saying, "You're going to make it. You got this." And we've started saying, "You're a piece of shit. You're not good enough. Why even bother?" And when you send yourself into a conversation, into a presentation, into even typing up an email, when you start your day by saying, "I look terrible. I screwed up again yesterday. I hate my life," that's not going to motivate you to change it. And so your sense of feeling like the effort is worth it begins and ends with how encouraging, supportive, and kind you are to yourself. And, we can also take this little role play exercise and go, well, let's say you miss the shot and you come back to the sideline again. What could your coach say, or what would you want your coach to say to help you get your head back in the game and to brush off the mistake that you just made?
Like, "You did your best, Doug. You'll get him next time. Like, get back in there, and I have a feeling you're going to be a positive contribution to the team."
Yeah, that's right. Shake it off. You did
Shake
your
it off.
best. You're going to do it next time. This is you win some, you lose some. Let's go. Now I need you to win some, right? I believe in you.
I think one of the role plays that we could maybe go into that I think is pretty common with people is that they acknowledge that they maybe have to start talking to themselves better. But whatever they start to say that's positive, there's this cognitive dissonance because they just don't believe it.
Right.
How do you get somebody who for the last 10 to 15 years has just been completely destroying themselves self-talk wise, begin to build some consistency with that, so now that becomes a new habit that they're talking to themselves in a more positive way and they actually believe it instead of just saying it?
This is a phenomenal and really smart question. If you have been trashing yourself for 10 years, you do have a cognitive dissonance. You don't even hear it anymore,
Right.
because that negative, you're a piece of shit, you're not good enough, you screw everything up, first began as something you said. Then it became a belief. Your brain started to align with the belief and it starts to become your identity. I always screw things up. And I want you to hear me loud and clear. If you are on social media and you ever go to the Discover page on Instagram or on TikTok or on any platform, that social media platform has put together a mosaic of content that aligns with everything that you consume in your feed. That social media platform on the Discover page has assembled a world on social media that looks just like the stuff you're always looking at. Your brain works exactly the same way. One of the reasons why it is so important for you to identify how often you are trashing yourself or being pessimistic or you are being negative in your attitude and unkind to yourself is because as long as you think and speak that shit, the Discover page of your mind presents a world that matches to that negative dialogue. So that's why this is critical. The second thing that you need to do, because you're unconscious to it, right, is there are two things that are going to work, because just trying to speak kindly often doesn't work because you have so trained your mind that you think you're not good enough, that saying, I'm good enough doesn't work because your brain literally looks at you and like, who are you talking to? Like, because I can't be you. So there's two things that will help you based on the research. The first one is journaling exercises, because there is something that happens when you create a new habit where every single morning before you look at that social media, you open up a blank page. And the way that I journal is very simple. I always start by writing down 5 things that I want. And I just let them flow through me. What are 5 things that I really want? And it might be something small. It might be that, I want a really cool new pair of sneakers. It might be something big. I really want to feel happy. It might be something that is a feeling like, this pandemic has kicked the shit out of everybody. I am not immune from the feeling of burnout or the feeling of languishing, the feeling of disconnection even from self that we can all feel when you're isolated for this long and you're remote for this long and you're stressed out for this long. And so allowing yourself to write down 5 things that you want. I want to feel like myself again. It allows the things that you desire to flow through the self-doubt and through the negativity and through all the crap that buries it and pushes it down, and it allows it to come to the surface. And the writing it down is important because your mind is paying attention. That Discover page that your mind creates pays attention to what you say is important. And if you begin a new habit of just starting your day with a blank piece of paper and writing down 5 things that you want every day. It can be the same things every day. It can be different things every day. You just allow yourself to do this. You will start to build the skill of being connected to what you desire. You will start to develop a skill of tuning out the self-doubt and tuning into what you want. And this is really important because your brain is paying attention, and it doesn't require you to talk to yourself. It just write it on a piece of paper. The next thing that you're going to do, step 2, is write down why you want these things. Because if you have a negative dialogue, Doug, you have for decades talked yourself out of the things that you want. You have filled your heart and your soul and your mind with all the reasons why it's never going to happen. And so by starting every day with a new habit, write down 5 things that you want and then write down why you want these things. You are developing a skill of listening to what you want instead of listening to the self-doubt. That's step one. That's one thing that you can do to fight decades of negative self-talk. The second thing that you can do is every morning after you brush your teeth, add a high five in the mirror to your reflection to your morning routine. That will have a shockingly powerful impact on your negative self-talk. And the reason why it does is because your brain watches you do it, and you only give a high five to somebody that you believe in, that you're rooting for, that you're kind to, and that you want to see win. And what we've found based on researching this simple habit, adding a high five to the mirror every single morning. You don't say a word. As stupid as it sounds, just high five the mirror. What we have found after researching this for 18 months and having 153,000 people from 91 countries do this for 5 days is that it has a profound effect on how you speak to and how you see yourself, because it is an action that demonstrates to your brain that you care about yourself and you support yourself. And so those are two physical things that you can do to start to shut down and fight back against the critic that is programmed into your head. Hey, it's Mel. I wanted to interrupt that video because I know you're here on YouTube looking for inspiration, looking for motivation, and looking for empowerment. So I thought we'd take this relationship to the next level. How about you join me in a brand new 3-part training class that I'm teaching right now. It's called Take Control with Mel Robbins. It is free. It is packed with science. It is packed with coaching, and it is packed with action. In fact, this class is so good that the second that you click the link below, you're in, class begins, and I send you an email with a link to the workbook you're going to download. That's right. I'm not joking around here. So if you're ready to tap back into excellence and start executing and winning again, this is an opportunity you cannot afford to miss. Let's stop watching YouTube and let's start doing what you're learning on YouTube. Click below and I'll be the one to push you and coach you into changing your life. All right, I'll see you in class. Now back to the video.
So talk to me a little bit about, kind of what you've learned in terms of how we keep ourselves locked in these
this
cycles.
Is incredible. It's incredible. So the morning that I discovered this thing, I'll kind of unpack this because the first morning and the second morning, I know that you're going to take this like boom, even deeper. So here we go, everybody, buckle up. So it's April 2020. And, I can't use my normal coping mechanisms. We're all in quarantine. So as I lose my dream job and my kids' college experience implode and they're grieving and upset and sad and I'm terrified for I'm scared for everybody and the frontline workers, and life is upside down and the anxiety starts to kind of roll back in. I can't run to Target. I can't go to the coffee shop. I can't distract myself by running to do a speech. I can't go see my friends. All of the busyness, by the way, which I now can see was a form of self-regulating stress and trauma. That if I'm on the run, I don't have to deal with the woman in the mirror. If I'm moving and the adrenaline is pumping, I don't actually have to sit and be with myself. Maybe I can just outrun this stuff. And so and even the genesis of the 5-second rule, the genesis was, if I move fast enough, if I launch myself out of that bed, maybe I won't be there when the anxiety hits. So even that was like a perfect illustration of just push through it, don't deal with it. It's a fast thing that has profound effect, but it doesn't hit the source of what's causing all of the hatred and the tension and the pain in the first place. So I get out of bed, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I make my bed that morning so I don't crawl back into it. I feel exhausted, overwhelmed. We've all felt this before, whether you felt it during the pandemic or you felt it because you lost a job or somebody just says, I don't love you anymore, or you hate how you look. We've all felt this. I'm overwhelmed by my life. I'm exhausted. I can't face this. I get into the bathroom. I start brushing my teeth. And I immediately catch a glimpse of myself and I think, oh my God, you look like hell. And then the habit starts that I really want us to unpack. Because every single human being I'm discovering has a habit that is so destructive and none of us are talking about because it's so subtle and it is so hard baked into your mind. And it's this: every morning in the bathroom mirror, you either ignore yourself, which is a form of rejection, or you pick yourself apart and see all the things you need to fix or what you don't like. And this isn't, this is everybody. 50% of people are uncomfortable or will not look at themselves in the mirror.
I'll admit, I raised my hand. Took me a very long time to really, truly, and there's still discomfort there of looking at myself. And I used to tell myself, well, it's okay. I know how I feel in my body, and that's my marker. I feel good today, and that's all I need. I don't need to look at that mirror. Not really understanding that I was in that active avoidance. Something felt very intimate, very vulnerable. Before I even got to then the criticism of myself, it just was for me pure avoidance. I didn't really care. I mean, I would need mirrors if I maybe put some makeup on. And outside of that, me and mirrors, I didn't have a relationship with them at all. Not knowing, again, I told myself the story of why I believed I wasn't looking at them until I dove down and unpacked it and understood that there was a discomfort there and still, like I said, remains for me.
Well, same for me. So I start picking myself apart. I feel my energy going down. And the interesting thing, as I felt myself just getting so defeated, why'd you get up late? You haven't texted Nicole back. The dog's not walked. Like, I'm just like dragging. And all the research around emotional contagion. So do I. That this emotion and negative space is going to impact your productivity. And like, we know all this, but it's a habit. I've been doing this for 4 decades is how long I've been doing this as part of my morning routine. And so if you had walked in the bathroom that morning, I would have spun on a dime. I'd have been like, Nicole, I know this is terrible. I'm so sorry you're going through this. You don't deserve this. But if anybody can face this, you can. What do you need? I would have lifted you up. I could not think of a thing to say. And here's the thing, I wouldn't have even believed it because it didn't match how I was feeling. And I don't know what came over. I honestly believe it was the universe, the divine source saying, all right, we're ready for this. Because it is so cheesy on its face. I'm literally in my underwear, alone with the dog at my feet, literally having the dark night of the soul. And I lift my hand to my tired reflection because the woman in the mirror needed a high five. And in that moment, lightning didn't strike. It wasn't like the heavens opened and, purple light came in and, whoa, that's not what happened. As you know, too, like you kind of have this awakening and then it's like, fuck, now what? No, but I felt this like shift and I can explain the science. It's crazy. I felt this shift and the energy wasn't lovely. The energy was more like, oh, come on. I laugh. Oh, Mel, come on. It's like, get out there. You're safe, you're fine. Like I kind of shoved myself. I didn't even think, I didn't say it. It was a shift. But Nicole, holy cow, the second morning, this is when my healing took a quantum leap. Like I can't even wait till you guys hear this. Like I cannot wait for everybody to experience this. I wake up, same overwhelm, same just defeated, down, tired, anxious, stressed, alone. And I, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed. I make the bed. I start walking to the bathroom. And I realize I am feeling something I don't think I'd ever felt in my entire adult life. And it was this. You know how when you're about to walk into a cafe and you're going to see somebody you just love, you like them so much, you're about to walk in. What do you feel?
I mean, anything from, excitement to even that warm love, I think that you are expecting to go and receive in that moment.
Yeah. I actually felt that about seeing myself.
How powerful.
I had never felt that as an adult. I'd been excited to see an outfit or what my hair looked like, but I had never felt that sense of joy or excitement about seeing the human being, Mel Robbins.
The being, right? Because I'm thinking too, I'm like, what? Like I just went down a trip of what have I felt excited about? And if I were to categorize, it was the stuff I was doing, I would say, or the, or even an event. It didn't have to even be an accomplishment. As I began to heal, as I began to shift a little less into I have to achieve things, it would just still be an exciting experience I had planned coming up. And I'm having a really hard time having consistent or frequent memories of just me being enough. And for me, if I map it on back into childhood, one of my major copings too was that doing, was shifting from, right, a little girl self-expressing in whatever way to there were things that it was very clear I was good at very early on. And so for me, that shift into doing, and then the excitement, the warm feelings, even the loving connection, I could even go as far to say that my doingness, my achievements, my like how I was in the world, actually for me for a long time was a point of connections for me in my family relationships, in my friendships. How can I serve you? How can I show up for you? Friend, partner, whomever. And so for me, it's hard to think of moments where I felt enough, excited, warm about me without action, uncloaked, just raw in a mirror.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And it goes back to something you said earlier. You also tend to get a lot of positive, emotion and praise when you're achieving those things. At least I did too. And I think that's why I chased it so much. I had fused the doing with being lovable, the achieving with being worthy. And so as I walk into the bathroom that second morning and the sort of profound nature of what was unfolding started to hit me, I have this second epiphany as I'm brushing my teeth. And that is this. Every morning, there are two people in the bathroom. There's you, and there's a human being in the mirror who needs you. They are trying so hard. They are waiting for you to wake up and to realize that they're there. They need your encouragement. They need your support. They need your love. They are so tired of you picking them apart and thinking about all the things that are going wrong. And as I put my toothbrush down, I remembered the fact that yesterday, the day before, I had been researching, how do I need to change right now? Because I have all these people on my team. How am I going to show up for my family? And I found this piece of research from Harvard that says that if you take just less than a minute of intentional reflection about how you're going to show up for the people that you're leading, and this could apply to your family, anybody, it changes your focus, your productivity, it changes your mood, it changes how you show up, your ability to impact. And for whatever reason in that moment, it all fused together. And I thought, well, what if I do that for me? And I asked myself a question I had never asked myself before. And it was this. Who do you need me to be today? Like I asked the woman in the mirror, who do you need me to be today? How can I show up for you? And, what kind of popped in my mind that morning was like, well, it'd be nice if you were kinder to me because I'm trying really hard. And then the next one was, it'd be great if you could muster up some optimism here. Having fun today. It's like, hell, throw me a lifeline, Mel. And as I thought about it, I then went and I raised my hand and I sealed it with this high five. And something like, it just felt like this fusion with the person in the mirror. And that's when I really got it. I got that this is so much deeper and more profound, because what I'm actually doing is I'm fulfilling my fundamental emotional needs. I am seeing myself. I am meeting myself where I am. I am affirming my unique need. And I am celebrating myself exactly where I am right now, whether it's challenging, whether it's exhilarating. I am with myself right in that moment in a way that I don't know if I had ever been.
I think it's really, pivotal. And I want to reiterate this because I think it's such a great point of understanding. Back to that onion analogy again, when you said there's two people, right? And I could go as far to say that so many of us have different masks, different selves, right? The core, like we were just talking about, is who we really are. Though so many times in our day to day, we are showing up in all of these different ways, playing all of these different roles. And there is an us that we need to, and the journey becomes about connecting back to. Though a lot of us are kind of at odds with even ourselves in so many moments because we're so practiced at showing up in all of these other ways that we've lost so much sight of the authentic core within each of us. And what you're also illustrating, I think that's so important, is the practice of that reconnection, right? And many of us start by not knowing, not seeing ourselves, not knowing what there is even to see or to self-express. For me, I share this story often. When I came to the awareness that I, like you and like many of us, filter the whole world through everyone else and what their needs may be, I had a big gaping hole of knowledge. I didn't know myself. I didn't really know that person in the mirror. I did know that we do, I believe, as humans universally, I don't care where you're signing onto this live right now around the globe, we have at our core the desire to be seen, to be heard, to be just in full self-expression, and for that to be enough. Yet I didn't know who that person was. So I share this because I do want to speak to the people who, as we begin to look in the mirror, and for a lot of us, it might just be a concept. Okay, there's an authentic self in there where I don't know where that person is. I don't know what that person needs yet. And that's when we begin the journey to explore. Because I, like many of us, didn't know at first, was profoundly uncomfortable with even beginning to ask those questions. What do I need right now? Can I just be enough in this moment? And it is the question that sets us off into the journey. And I share that because I know a lot of us, we want to know the answers, or we think we should, and then we shame ourselves out of even taking the journey into exploring those. But for me, I'll share, that's how my journey began, not knowing at all, with incredible discomfort, even around stopping to even ask myself those questions. And of course, like you said, it does not happen overnight. I say there's no light switch here. Oh, I heal now. And again, I want to highlight the practice of it, right? Because there's concepts, there's books, there's, people and teachers and tools and techniques, and they're all in theory until, like I say, we bridge the gap from theory into action. And that's what I've always resonated so much with your work, from the 5 second, this idea of the tool. How do I practically apply this? And now, of course, the high five habit. How do I turn this idea into a daily action that can actually help me create the change that I'm looking for, to A, reconnect with that person beneath, and B, to over time, grow to love them. Over time, grow to love them.
I love the over time. The high five habit goes all the way down to the core of who you are and how you treat yourself. And when you become a human being who has compassion for yourself, who likes you, it won't matter what happens out there.
Yeah.
Because everything in here is healed and taken care of. And so, somebody can say to me, I don't love you anymore. I don't like you. It'll sting, but it doesn't change the fact that I still like myself. Because I practice and demonstrate it. That's the difference.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the hidden magic in the high five habit is, because I've been trying it the last few days, right?
And what did you experience?
It is powerful because...
Well, walk us through. Like you're standing at your bathroom sink. Yeah, and walk us through your experience.
Well, first of all, you have to take a pause from your life. Whatever you were going to do, it requires an intentional pause to go, no, I'm going to now do this action for myself. And I've got to say, before I tell you how it went, I think it would have been very different for me a few years ago, because I feel self-compassion, not seeking your worth from outside, from other people, from download numbers, likes, what people say about you, which was a huge part of my life. I feel that having put a lot of that to bed now and really feeling that I actually like the person I see in the mirror these days. So I kind of feel 5 years ago, I would have had a different experience with it, but it was still powerful because you are just looking at yourself and you're putting your hand on the mirror. And I think what it is, it's just that pause, that moment of seeing me. Like you are seeing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, obviously as a guy, what do? We're often looking in the mirror. We might be looking at our beard as we're shaving, right?
Yeah.
But you're not looking at your eyes,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're just looking at, I need to shave. I missed a bit here. Let me get rid of that. And then you crack on, right? Or you look at your face and your hair, but you're not really looking at yourself.
Right.
You're seeing your silhouette. You are seeing yourself, but you're not seeing yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I think was really powerful, was that it's just another, like, I feel it's just another tool now, which is going to take me all of 2 seconds, if that's 5 seconds tops. It's not as if I don't have time to add that in. There's no harm in adding it in. And frankly, I like adding it in. It makes me feel good. It's like, and I think it's what you say, it's the action.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything if you're not in the mood to say anything.
I don't want you to say anything, actually. And the reason why is the neuroassociation. So,
what do you mean by that?
well, here's what I mean by that. So, when you high five someone else, what does the action of a high five communicate?
It's just a universal symbol of, you got this, I see you, you're great, we can do this. It depends on the situation, but it's a good feeling. It's a mutual sort of validation type experience.
Tell me about the London Marathon and getting high fives.
Oh, I mean,
what did a stranger's high five mean to you?
It just gave you, like, and that's the key, it's strangers, right? You don't know them and they're looking at you and you're looking at them, or maybe you're not even looking at them. You just went through, you give a high five. It's like you've taken a shot of feel goods. It's validation. It's like, hey, you know what? We're in this together. You're standing at the side cheering, I'm running. But at that moment, it was like common humanity. It was like, there was no animosity. And actually, it's kind of one of my big learnings from the London Marathon actually was, and it relates to this, I think, is that that's kind of who we are. Like in what is considered a very divided world at the moment, I went and did the London Marathon and all I saw was love, strangers giving love to other people that they didn't know, right? And how did they give that love? Through cheering, but more often than not, with a high five.
Correct. It is a universal symbol of encouragement, of love, of celebration. And the neuroassociation, whether you live in a culture where you've been high-fived or not, the neuroassociation is still there because you have seen them in sport.
Yeah.
You've seen them in marathons. You've seen teachers give them to kids. So your brain has a lifetime of programming in your subconscious that is triggered by this action. It is neurologically impossible to high five yourself and think you're a loser, you failed, I don't like your face. Your brain will not allow you to do it because the neuroassociation is so entrenched. It has only ever meant, I celebrate you, I see you, I got you, keep going, you got this, I'm behind you.
As you say that, Mel, it makes me think of gratitude, because when we are feeling grateful, we can't feel down, we can't feel anxious, we can't feel annoyed with ourselves. And in some ways, this is kind of gratitude for ourselves.
Correct, because the thing about gratitude, which obviously has tremendous, demonstrated, proven benefits in your life, most of us are grateful for things outside of us.
Yeah.
What I'm teaching the world to do is to unlock neuroassociation in your mind and in your nervous system and aim it back at yourself. And use this simple habit to interrupt the critic,
to break the default loops in your mind associated with judgment, shame, criticism, hatred for self, and to replace it with a new default setting of seeing yourself the way you see your child, which is love.
Yeah.
Like, my kids do stuff that piss me off all the time. And I can be upset with them or disappointed with them, but I never stop loving them.
Yeah.
And there is something that has happened to each and every one of us that as life's pains and heartaches and disappointments and setbacks sort of stack up, we stop loving ourselves. We start judging ourselves more. We start condemning ourselves more. We start rejecting ourselves more. We start trying to seek somebody else's love and approval in order to fill up this well inside of us that we've been digging because we've been rejecting ourselves. And so, you know, it's so powerful because the action alone is what communicates it. If you're looking at yourself and you raise your hand on your hardest days, what the high five says is not, yeah, I'm amazing. Like, this is not going to turn you into a narcissist. This is grounded in compassion.
Yeah.
This is basically saying, I see you. You're right. This is hard. And you know what? You can do this. And I'm going to be here. And I've got your back. And when you send yourself into your day with that physical action, it leaves an imprint in your mind and spirit. Now, there's a couple reasons why. I don't even write about this part in the book because I didn't know this until I started doing podcasts for the book.
Yeah.
So Dr. Amen told me, who's, you know, one of the leading experts in the brain, that one of the reasons why you feel better when you do it, no matter how terrible of a morning it is because your brain has always given you dopamine when somebody else high fives you.
Yeah.
So these sorts of gestures are rewarded in the brain. So when you simply high five yourself, your brain doesn't distinguish between me high fiving me and me high fiving you. It just sees, oh, I know what that is. Drip, dopamine. Oh, I believe in that person. The second thing that happens is that your body is hardwired for celebratory energy. This is that electricity that's in the walls that has a switch that you can turn on and off. And so, you know, for example, when you cross the finish line of the London Marathon, what do you instinctively do?
High five someone.
Yeah, and raise your hands, right? When your favorite team scores, raise your hands. When you yell surprise at a birthday party, you raise your hands. When you say hello, you raise your arm. When you go to high five somebody, you raise your arms. When you hug somebody, you raise your arms. This is wired through your entire body. And normally we give that celebratory energy to other people or things.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, when you high five yourself, you flip the switch. You flip the switch and give yourself a little bit of that vitality that's coursing through you to help you move into your day.
Yeah, I see it as almost like it is about the high five, but it's not in many ways as well, because it's like if you're going down a road and the high five to yourself sets you off on a different path for the rest of that day compared to had you not done it, right?
1,000% right. So let's just use a great example that everybody can latch onto. Sport.
Yeah.
So if a team is about to play the championship in the league, right?
Yeah.
And they're the underdogs. What is the best way to send the team into that game? Is it to beat them down? Oh, you did a terrible job on the London Marathon. You're going to face plant in New York. Oh my God. And I saw your split times. We're fucked. No, that's not the best way to do it.
But that's what we do to ourselves.
Correct. Correct. And so I'm here to say, you don't have to say anything because you're not going to believe it. So we're going to cheat this. We're going to circuit your feelings.
You're bypassing
Correct.
words. It's like when you take like this ridiculous example, but it's like when you take a B12 supplement, but you take it sublingually, so it dissolves. So you bypass having to go into the gut, through the liver, and then you get it straight in.
Correct.
And it's got that feel to me.
1,000%. And so you send yourself into the game of life with that sort of optimism, with that resilience, with that compassion. And, you know, look, some days you're going to laugh, some days you might cry, People report some days you're going to just feel a little bit better. And some days you're going to high five yourself and laugh out loud from the dopamine and walk into your boss's office and ask for that raise or quit. Because you're going to remember that no matter what, you're going to be okay. You're going to remember that no matter what, you got your own back. You're going to remember that it doesn't matter if nobody says great job at that presentation that you worked on, because you can walk into the bathroom, as people have written to us, having practiced this. Hey, I did a presentation at work. Nobody said a damn word. The old me would have walked into my cube and cried and thought I was getting fired. I knew I did a good job. I walked into the bathroom and high-fived myself. Your kids can stick this in their back pocket. And it's a way to reset yourself when you start going down that negative road. And why is this important? It's important because the high five is not going to remove poverty. It's not going to remove discrimination. It's not going to remove diabetes. It's not going to remove the fact that somebody just said they want to divorce you. It's not going to remove all of the trauma. It doesn't change those things. It changes you.
Yeah.
And it changes your relationship with yourself and your ability to believe that through your actions and your attitude, you can move the needle on those things.
Yeah. I love that last point, Mel, because the similarities between the way you talk about this and the way I've been talking about certain behaviors and 5-minute habits for years, they are so connected. And one of the things I often say, and I want to just acknowledge you for what you just said, it's not going to change your life situation. You know, if you're in poverty, you're still going to be in poverty, but you're going to be a different person. You're going to be better able to face the stresses that are in your life.
Yes.
And I think this is such an important point, right? Because I have said this before on the show, but I always think it's worth reiterating that a lot of people feel that self-help or wellness is the preserve of the wealthy and the middle classes. But actually, habits like this, yes, they'll help someone who's got a ton of money in their bank accounts, because a lot of people like that are racked with self-doubt on the inside as well. But it's also going to help someone who is in poverty, or a single mum who's working 2 jobs and has got 3 kids and is really struggling. That little micro moment each morning where she sees herself in the mirror, she signals to her brain that she is worthy, that actually she's a human being with real feelings, and for all her qualities and all her, all the great things that she's doing, that has power, right?
Oh my
and
God,
it is
amazing
free.
Power.
It is free. There's not a single person pretty much who is listening to this or watching this right now who couldn't just either pause or at the end go, all right, let me, I'm convinced, Mel. I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to give this a go.
Yeah. Look, I want to also say one thing to you. This stuff is kind of heady. So I'm doing my best to keep this like fun and visual, because when you get lost in thought, it's going to be hard to apply this. And so first of all, I want to commend you for sticking with this, because now we're going to dig into the exercise. I wanted you to have the understanding, because oftentimes I personally find that if somebody just throws a science-backed tip or exercise or tool or tactic or strategy at me, it sounds so dumb on the surface that without the underlying kind of research and mechanics and science that explains why this simple thing works, you will literally roll your eyes and not do it. So now that you have that background, I'm going to reward you with the exercise that I want you to practice. And this one is simple. So if you're cynical, if you're really smart, if you're analytical, it will sound stupid, but I want you to hang in there, because there is a really powerful thing going on in your neural pathways when you try this. And it's also an incredibly cool and fun thing to do with your family, with your friends. In fact, I get texts from people all over the world who are doing it. And my kids who do not live with us, our 2 adult daughters, they constantly text me pictures of what I'm about to ask you to do. So I promise you, it's worth trying. This is an exercise called looking for hearts. And this is how you play it. Every single day when you wake up, you are going to go on a scavenger hunt in your day-to-day life, and you are going to try to find a naturally occurring heart shape somewhere in the world. It could be a cloud that's shaped like a heart. You could look at your coffee and see that the foam on top has made the shape of a heart. You might get out of your car and you'll see a stain on the floor or a leaf that's the shape of a heart. I constantly see rocks. I see heart shapes in the top of mountain ranges. I see the shape of hearts in brick buildings all the time in terms of the different colors of bricks. And here's what's interesting about this. What you'll realize is that there are probably 10,000 heart shapes that are around you in your day-to-day life. The stain on the carpet, the spot on your dog's back, the tear in a pair of pants, the shape of a leaf, they're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. And right now, you walk right by them. Why? Well, because they're not important to you. You have not told the bouncer of your brain to let the hearts in to the nightclub. So you are walking right past all these things, and they are actively being blocked out. It is not in your conscious mind. The second you start playing this game, Find a Heart, you will experience something amazing. You will experience your brain going to work for you. And so here's how I want you to play this, because I do want you to play this every single day. This is truly not a game about finding hearts. This is about training your mind. This is a game where you are telling your mind, I am the freaking boss. Bouncer of the mind, I pay your salary. You are going to do what I tell you to do. You are going to find me a heart. And if you want to get paid, you are going to find me a heart. That is your job today. Find me a heart. So get intentional about that. And then I want you to go through your life and just let a heart shape in. And when you see it, here's what I want you to do. And if you're really analytical, you're going to think this is the cheesiest damn thing you've ever heard, but I want you to do this because there's neuroscience involved. When you see that heart, I want you to pause. And I want you to really stare at it for a minute. You can take a photo of it. If it's a rock, you can pick it up, or a leaf, and take it with you. Because I want you to reward your brain for being flexible and for trying to help you. I want you to take that moment for real, as cheesy as this sounds. The foam on the top of your coffee, the shadow on the floor. I want you to take a minute and really savor it and literally just go, holy shit, there it is. That's pretty cool. Yesterday, I walked right past this and I didn't even see it. Thank you, mind. Wow. You just changed in real time. You just let something in that I asked you to let that in. And if you really want to supersize this, if you're somebody that's really struggling with a sense of self-worth or hope or really believing that you can turn things around, I want you to look at that and tell yourself that that was placed there for you to find. That this was placed there because you needed to see evidence that it is in fact possible to change the way you think. It is in fact possible to tell your mind what you want to see more evidence of and for your mind to work for you. And once you see one heart, you will start seeing hearts everywhere. The more hearts that you see, the more that you are connecting into magic, the more that you realize that your brain is trying very hard to help you. It is going to point out hearts in the moss. It's going to point out hearts on the sidewalk. You're going to see hearts on people's clothing. You're going to see them in paintings. It's weird. They're like everywhere. It's as if there is this entire world that you and I live in, and we walk by it every single day. And I think that's true about everything that you want. That there is evidence all around you that things are working out, that people are trying to help you, if you're willing to see it. You know, at the end of the day, finding hearts is not about finding hearts. It is about something so much bigger, because it's proof that you can change the wiring in your mind. You can manipulate and program this filter, the RAS, to make it work for you. And every time you see a heart, it is evidence that it is true. And so it's important because this is the first step of a mindset reset. Because if you didn't think, my mind can change, it can allow me to see the world differently. If I can't get you to see and experience that, you will never even bother trying thought substitution. And I will say there is something that some of you may experience. So this comes from Nady in Germany. And she wrote, Mel, I loved what you said about looking for hearts, and I've been trying it. And I even saw 2 hearts within an hour. But then I got nervous and was almost afraid to find them. So how do you overcome the fear of making things better? I relate to this because we're used to the way that things are. We're used to the default programming in our minds, even if it makes us miserable. And when you start to catch a glimpse of how things could be different, I think sometimes if you've experienced a tremendous amount of heartache, or you've tried so many times to put yourself out there, the idea of believing again that it's worth trying again, that is what's scary. Here's what I have to say to you. This is not about hope. This is hard science. Because you're living with programming right now. And I am here to tell you it's outdated. In fact, when you start to really play around with this next piece of how you change the way that you think, you're going to realize that you're not even listening to your voice. You're listening to someone else's voice. It's probably your mom's or your dad's or another caregiver's. Because that negativity that's in your mind that chips away at you, that default programming that you don't even really hear, for me, I call it my campaign of misery. I did not create this when I was 6 or 7 or 8. I was taught this. And so you're going to start to realize that not only do you have the power to change the filter, yes, you can see reasons to be happy. Yes, you can spot wins instead of reasons why you're a loser. Yeah, you can pay more attention to the people in your life that make you feel great instead of chasing the ones that make you feel like crap. You can change all of this. You can make your mind work for you. But what you're going to realize very quickly is, holy cow, like there's this default thing in my mind that's like fighting my desire to be happy. It's fighting my desire to win. And so that's where we're going to go next, because there is an entirely different reality. One of the reasons why I always say to you is, I love you. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to create a better life. The reason why I say that to you all the freaking time, and I mean it, is because I know you don't say that to yourself. And I didn't say that to myself for a long time either. And I don't need to meet you to say, I love you. Because love is a verb. Love is how you show up in the world. This podcast is an act of love for me. It is a way to connect with you. It's a way for me to support you and empower you. And I show up here because I do believe in you. I don't care what's happened to you. You cannot convince me that you cannot change. I have way too much evidence on my side. You only have your experience. I've got an army of 1 million people that I've seen change. And so I know you can change because I know you can take the actions to make your mind a better place. You can take the actions to make your life feel better. You can take the actions to improve your relationship with yourself. And this is the most exciting part. This is the thing I am working on myself day in and day out. You can take the actions that reclaim your brain, that reprogram your mind, and that make your mindset and your thoughts work for you. I mean, all this shit is made up that we're saying anyway. So if you can think bad thoughts, why not think good ones? Does it actually make you happy to tell yourself that you suck and that there's something wrong with you? And is it even true? So if you can make that crap up, if you can adopt what somebody else says about you, can't you make up your own? Of course you can. And so let's get to that substitution diet. This is the Mel Robbins way to describe what researchers call cognitive bias modification. It's literally catching default thoughts and substituting something better. And one of the best example of this is the next time that you start obsessing over what could go wrong. What if I don't like it? What if it doesn't work? What if I get rejected? What if what if I look stupid? What if they judge me? What if this? Say this. What if it works out? What if it works out? The more you say out loud, what if it works out? You substitute the negative bullshit with something positive. What if it works out? I mean, can you argue with me on that one? What if it works out? I didn't say it will work out. I said, what if it does? Because you don't know whether it's going to work out or not, do you? And when you allow your default wiring to filter the world with the belief and the thought that, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? What if this? What if that? Those thoughts filter the world a certain way. The thought, what if it doesn't work out, makes you not apply. It makes you not write that book. It makes you not go to the gym. It makes you sit home alone. Those thoughts are filtering your experience of life a particular way. And because the filter in your brain is paying attention to what you care about, it believes that's what you want. So as you scan the world around you, you see reasons why it's not going to work out. Didn't happen last time. It's a weird world after the pandemic. I don't want to embarrass myself. I feel uncomfortable. When you start to engage in thought substitution, what if it all works out? What if leaving my house is the best decision I've made in a decade? What if I meet the person that I was destined to meet? What if going to 90 meetings in 90 days at AA changes my life? What if it all works out? See how that mindset switch, cognitive bias modification, see how that leads you to feeling more encouraged? What if I make these 10 cold calls and nobody takes the call, but I'm okay? What if I walk up to this house that I think is going to go on the market and I knock on the door? And it turns out I buy it before it comes on the market. What if I get into my dream school? You're more likely to apply if you're like, well, what if it does work out? And this is why this is so important, because your brain is paying attention to what's important to you. And I don't think any of us have a clue how much airtime we give to negative thinking, to beating ourselves down, to assuming that life is going against you, to thinking something's wrong, to beating yourself up, to comparing yourself to other people. And when you start to pay attention to two facts, number one, your mind is trying to help you. And number two, when you figure out what's important to you and you make it a priority, your mind will adjust in real time and help you see an entirely new world. And when you see that it's possible that you could get into your dream school, that's a whole new world. When you see that it's possible that you'll make the best friends of your life in the next year of your life, a whole new world is possible. When you see that you can not only get your dream job, but you can land your dream job and it has a bonus, a whole new world is possible. And it begins with two simple things I want you to do. Look for hearts so you experience that a whole new world is possible, that there's a world that you're walking by every day. This is critical. I do this every single day. And, it sounds like such a dumb thing. And I often think about, this moment where a reporter's like, so what's your secret to success? And I'm like, look, I look for a heart every day. I mean, it sounds so stupid, doesn't it? But what I'm actually saying is I am actively engaged in the process of training my brain. Just like you would lift weights or resist weights or whatever it is that you do if you want biceps, you are training your body to be strong. I'm training my mind every single day to work for me. And every time I see a heart, it's a reminder, oh yeah, my brain will tell me what I want it to tell me. And so I can either let the campaign of misery take control of my RAS, or I can tell my brain, no, it is important to be happy. It is important to feel like I'm winning. It's important to put myself out there in light. I need some help with this brain. And so the hearts for me is a simple way to explain this profound amount of research out there and put it into practical use. And this idea of a substitution diet for the shit you've been thinking forever that no longer serves you. That's a simple way for me to explain to you. You're not stuck with the thoughts that you think. That idea right there, that's the whole thing. That's everything. You are not stuck with the thoughts that you think. You can let them rise up, but you don't have to grab them and grip onto them and wrestle them to the ground. You'd be like, oh, there's that stupid thought that my dad taught me to think. Bye, Dad. I choose to think something else because I know what cognitive bias modification is. And that horse shit that you said that I was a failure or didn't mount up to something or wasn't wanted, I don't believe that shit anymore. Because it's important to me to not only see hearts, but it's important to me to encourage myself, to believe in myself, to believe in my life and my effort and my ability. Because that's what I believe. That's why I'm here. You can do this. If I can do this shit, you can do this stuff. You have no idea how screwed up I was. If you wanted to go toe-to-toe with somebody that had like the darkest thoughts in the world, Mel Robbins will go toe-to-toe with you any day. And you cannot get rid of it entirely, but thought by thought, you can learn how to not get hooked by it, and you can learn how to start to reprogram your mind. And I'm also going to tell you something. I said at the very beginning, it's not one and done. Like, this is not toxic positivity. I'm not here to sell you a pill to make your problems go away. I'm here to tell you that there will be times in your life where the negativity comes back and the default comes back and things get overwhelming. That happened to me just 6 months ago. When big things happen in your life, it can take you down for a little bit. But coming back to this stuff over and over, looking for hearts, there's the confirmation. I still, even though life sucks, my brain is still trying to help me. And really, I'm telling you, I call it hand-to-hand combat with your mind because that's what you're engaged in. Those negative thoughts either hook you and take you down, or you're like, boop, that's interesting. My grandmother's still bitching at me and she's dead. I don't really need this in my default program anymore. You know, that's what's available to you. So I mentioned earlier that this cognitive bias modification tools that we're talking about today work because not only have I used them in my own life, but also because we've had 250,000 students that I've taught a course about reframing your mindset, resetting your mindset to. And we do these extensive surveys afterwards. And one of the things that I know from our data is that the number one negative thought that people struggle with is, I'm not good enough. And I believe that everybody struggles with this. There are two reasons why. Number one, many of you grew up in a household where your lived experience was that you were told you weren't good enough, or you felt like you weren't good enough. And even if you grew up in a household where you didn't feel that way, you felt safe, you felt secure, you went to an elementary school or a middle school and you went through the period of human development called adolescence and teenage years, where you separate from your family and your number one objective developmentally is to bond with friends. And it's during that horrendous period of time that we call middle school that most of us start to size ourselves up in relation to other groups of people. Oh, they're the theater kids, I'm not good enough for them. Oh, the sports kids, I'm not good enough for them. Oh, the rich kids, I'm not good enough for them. It's a protection mechanism because you don't want to get hurt by approaching a group that you think is going to reject you. This is totally normal. We all have it. And ironically, what we do is we tell ourselves we're not good enough for certain groups or certain people. But our brains pay attention. And our brains at that little age and the filter in our brain starts to change and starts to scan the world for all the places you don't belong. That's my opinion about where it begins. It is part of everybody's development to go through this period where life is a sorting hat and you're trying to figure out where you fit in. And I wish that our brains did the opposite and basically scanned the world and were like, oh, well, let's just scan and see all the opportunities to fit in so that you amplify your strengths. But instead, we focus on our lack, and we do it as little kids. And because we've been doing it for so long, whether it began inside your home because of how you were treated, or in your community because of how you were treated, it definitely was an experience that you had when you were younger of trying to fit in. It happens to all of us. And the opportunity of your adult life and the rest of the time that you have is to reclaim your experience of life, to see all the places, not where you don't fit in, but all the places where you can go, all the places where you could be, all the wins that you have, all the strengths that you have, all the magic you have to give. That's the opportunity when it comes to changing your mindset and changing your brain. And when you take that on, because I believe that's true, I believe you fit in. I believe you belong. I believe you have incredible gifts to share with the world. I believe that you deserve happiness. I believe that you have huge wins every single day, and that I want you to give yourself credit for them. I believe that you've survived a ton of crap, and you don't even give yourself credit for that. I believe that you're pretty awesome. And I want you to start to have a brain that filters the world in that direction. And so that's why I'm telling you this. We all struggle with it to some extent. And in moments of weakness, it's going to be there again. But that's okay, because you can search for hearts and you can tell yourself, well, what if it all works out? You can remind yourself that we're all a work in progress. You can look for wins every day instead of the things that went wrong. You can spend more time with people that make you feel good instead of chasing places you really don't like. All of this is possible. And I want this for you, which is why I hope you'll try this. And simple reframes, if you don't feel good enough, is you can be like, I'm a work in progress. I can figure it out. The people who love me are the people who I need in my life. This is important. I really hope you take this on. And this is the work that you'll do for the rest of your life. And it's worth it, because the happiest days of our lives are the road ahead of us. Truly, I want that for both of us. And I've spent far too much time beating myself up and looking for what's wrong and searching for reasons to feel tortured or lonely and to stop myself. It's just horseshit. I'm so sick of it. And I'm sure you're sick of it too. And, I'm sharing all this because even though I teach this stuff, it's easy stuff to listen to or talk about. You got to put it into practice, and so do I. You got to catch yourself when the negativity starts. You got to cut off the voice in your head that is not your own. You got to knock this middle school shit off and start claiming your adult life, because you do deserve to be happy. And even if you don't love yourself, I'll tell you what, I love you. Even if you don't believe in yourself, that's okay. I believe in you. And I'm going to keep on saying it until you catch up with me, because I do believe that you can take the steps to reprogram your mind. You can take the steps to shut up that negativity in your head. You can take the steps to filter the world in an entirely new way and see how it's working to help you. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time to create a better life. Now go find a heart. I love you. You said that you rarely see anyone with chronic anxiety who is not addicted to something.
Yes.
And that there is a tight connection between anxiety and addictive behavior. Can you explain that and help us understand that?
Sure. So I'm going to mention the E word here, and I hope you don't shut off.
Ego? I won't even understand it. Can you explain it without the ego? What's it?
Your ego is kind of like an overprotective mother, right?
Okay.
Like it doesn't want you to go and play on the swings because you might fall off. It doesn't want you to talk in front of people because when you did that when you were in grade 6, people laughed at you. And
is the ego the same thing as the alarm?
It's related to it through the amygdala as well.
See, I'm already confused.
Yeah, I know. So I'm not going to get into too much neuroscience, but basically
Okay.
your ego is hooked into the amygdala, and your amygdala says, we're never doing that again because that hurt us, whatever it was. And the amygdala never forgets. So it's basically getting into bypassing that ego, because the ego is so overprotective that it will not let you go back into your old alarm.
So the ego is thinking.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it is something that it talks to us with thinking.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but let's talk about the connection between anxiety and addiction.
Okay. So basically, we need something to help us through this alarm.
Wait a minute. I think I just got it. Hold on.
Okay,
let me see if this is the answer. You ready?
Go.
Is addiction typically somebody's coping mechanism for the alarm? So, for example, you reach for alcohol because it drowns out the alarm. You reach for porn or drugs or stress or whatever because it...
Achievement. Yes.
Got it. Okay, I got it. So, if somebody is struggling with addictive behavior, whether it is alcohol or cigarettes or vaping or it is any of that stuff, you are more than likely not addressing the root issue, which is the anxiety and alarm that's continuing to go off in the background.
Yeah. And on top of that, basically, the ego is very powerful. It doesn't want to let you go back into that. So the only way that you can feel love, connection, whatever, is alcohol, is codeine, is cocaine, whatever you're addicted to. So
wait, but you feel the connection to the alcohol or the codeine. That's what you're saying. So this is why I get confused with the ego, because I'm like, I don't give a shit about the ego. Let's talk like the alarm. And then what makes sense to me is that addiction mutes the alarm.
Totally.
And that you become bonded and connected to, for me, it was stress. For my husband, it was a daily weed habit, for what that, and that addiction is what's muting the alarm. This is really cool. Yeah. So where does mindset come in? Because, there is so much out there about mindset and mental wellness. And it's interesting because this conversation with you makes me desperate for a different word than mental health. Because even the word mental health makes me go neck up, makes me think thoughts, makes me go to just what's going on in my mind. And what you've taught me today is a game changer, because what you've taught us all is that no. All mental health issues start in the body. And they start with this kind of reaction that happens in your body to stored trauma or to a threat or to uncertainty. And then that signals our minds, and our minds then start spinning thoughts. And if we don't address this alarm system in our body, which has a purpose, which is there to protect us, which is supposed to agitate you, but we exacerbate it, we try to mute it. If we don't learn how to turn inward and heal all of this in our body and turn toward this alarm and soothe ourselves and love ourselves and give ourselves the reassurance and the support or whatever it is that we didn't get in childhood or what we need in that moment, that is actually the beginning of all healing. That's what I'm getting from you.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. So why
do we call it mental health then? Like, what isn't there? Can we come up with a different word that would actually signal you that when you're struggling with depression or you're struggling with anxiety or you're struggling with any addiction issues, that it's not a mental health issue? It is a body something. I don't even know how to describe this, because it's the exact opposite of the way that we think about things right now.
It is the opposite. And you know, I'd love, you know, to come up with a better term than body set, but I think
Body
that's
set? What is that? That feels like weightlifting.
Well, no, well, it's like mindset, body set. Like
Oh,
what is the
mindset,
place in
body
your
set.
body? Can you regulate your body? Because if you regulate your body, your mind will get regulated. If you regulate your mind, your body might get regulated. So what I'm saying is that if you go in through the body, your body's much more likely to relax your mind than your mind is to relax your body. Because you can say, hey, relax, hey,
Oh,
calm
whoa,
down.
whoa, whoa. Did you guys hear that? That was a wake-up call for me. Right there. You were just dropping frickin' knowledge, Russ. Okay, hold on. I'm going to state this again. And now I have menopause brain, and so I've just forgotten what I said. You said something like your body, if you regulate your body, it will
Yeah.
regulate your mind. But
It's
if you
much more
regulate
effective.
your mind right, it'll, you say it because you're the one who said it.
Yeah, it's much more effective to regulate your body first, which will automatically regulate your mind, than to try and regulate your mind to regulate your body. Because your mind lies to you all the time. Your body never can.
Is this why exercising is such an effective thing to do when it
Partly.
comes to anxiety and focus?
Partly, but there's something beyond exercise. There's something within the somatosensory cortex, or the part of the brain that controls our movement and our sensation. When we activate that, we start getting into the sense of the body and out of the rumination of the mind.
And so
that's
by
one of
activating that, is that what you're saying? You can activate that part by doing the exercises you've already talked about in terms of locating where the alarm is and then finding a neutral part in
Yeah.
your body, breathing into it.
and
Do
just
you all-
movement. You know, just that's why yoga is so effective, because it brings you into your body. You know, anxiety at its root is really a mind-body disconnect, right? We go up into our heads and we stay in our heads because we don't want to go down in our body, because that's where the pain is. So we don't want to go into feeling town down in our body. We want to stay up in our thoughts. And that's another addiction. So we get addicted to worry. And that's why it's so hard to treat anxiety just by trying to fix thoughts, because we're addicted to thinking already. We don't need any more thinking. We need a lot more feeling, but we don't want to feel because that's where the frickin' pain is.
Wow. So I've gotten a couple huge things from
Okay.
this. That first of all anxiety results from a separation
Of some kind.
anxiety that has some kind of separation experience or feeling separate from other in childhood
And self.
and self. But what you just said too was really interesting, which is our response to that alarm or that feeling of being separate from self or separate from others or attacked by others or whatever, is that we actually do separate from ourselves. Anxiety and the alarm system, the way that most of us respond to it is to separate from our bodies, go up in our heads. And the way to quiet the alarm and ultimately turn it off is to come back and join in with yourself and come back to where the alarm is sounding off in your body, and then find a neutral or safe space in your body where you can draw your attention and breathe into back and forth and back and forth. And that when you quiet the alarm and when you go toward it and soothe your own body, that is the step that you need to take if you want to heal this. And that the thinking is part of the toolkit. Like, what would you recommend as some sentence that we could say if we're trying the tools, we go into our body, we're soothing ourselves? Is there something that people could say or repeat to themselves that you find is effective with the more neck down approach?
Absolutely.
What do you say?
Basically this. Am I safe in this moment? Am I safe in this moment? I know I've got a presentation to do on Friday. I know I've got a big tax bill. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. My mom is sick. But am I safe in this moment?
Why a question? Because I like saying I am safe.
You can do it both. You
am
can do
okay.
it both ways. I find that people with anxiety, though, this is the thing about saying I love you in the mirror, is that people don't allow that in. The reason why you're anxious in the first place is because you block love. So when you say, I love you.
Whoa. The
Yeah.
reason why you're anxious is because you block love?
For yourself, yes.
What?
You're separated from yourself. That's exactly what it comes down to. That's what anxiety or alarm really is. It's a separation. And this is what I do. This is my little, we didn't get into my little intuitive thing here.
We're going to in a minute. Hold on.
Okay.
We save the best for last, but hold on. Okay. Keep talking about the fact that when you have this alarm going off,
Yeah.
you are blocking. Like, just say it again. I'm processing, hyper processing now. I'm just like, oh my God, I think I got it. I think I got it. That literally your alarm is asking for love and reinsurance.
Absolutely.
And when you go into your head, you block yourself from receiving it.
Yes.
When you go into your body and you breathe into the alarm and soothe yourself, you are actually giving yourself love.
Yes.
Holy shit.
And a lot of people with anxiety, just they're uncomfortable with love in the first place. I'll give you a very quick example from my own life. So my dad, before I was 10 years old, was this wonderful guy. Like, he was so, connected to me and nurturing, taught me how to hit a ball, play chess, all this kind of stuff. Very, very connected to him. And I loved him greatly. And then as I got to be a young teen and his schizophrenia got worse and worse and worse, and he became suicidal and a bunch of other things, I withdrew from him because to see him in horrible depression was just too painful for me. So I blocked my love for him because it was just too painful to feel it. And that you can't block love from a parent without blocking love on some level to everyone. So there's a reason why I've been married 3 times. So this is one of the things. So when you find the blocks that you have to loving yourself, this is how you heal. And this is basically my little intuitive gift, is I can tell people where their blocks are to loving themselves. And then when you remove those blocks, the anxiety, the alarm just kind of fades away. So this is really going at the root cause protocol as opposed to just trying to make you think better.
Wow. So how do you help people find that place where they've blocked love?
Well, I go through their body, like what I believe, the short version of what I believe happens to you is, as a child, you experience an overwhelming stress. It's too much for your conscious mind to handle, so you stuff it down. Freud would call it repression. You stuff it into the unconscious. And the body keeps the score, just like Bessel van der Kolk says. So because the body is a representation of the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind is where these old, damaging programs are stored, they'll show up in the body. So I will find in your body where you feel that alarm and reverse engineer it to get into the same room with those unconscious programs, and then I can change them.
Wow. That's pretty cool. I think my biggest takeaway, and I keep saying this because clearly every 10 minutes I have a life-changing takeaway from this conversation, but my biggest takeaway is the connection between the alarm that goes off and the love that you're not allowing yourself to receive.
Totally.
And that it's beautiful to think that loving yourself is the way you cure anxiety. And what a beautiful thing. And it reminds me of something pretty amazing that my son Oakley shared with me. I said to him the other day, I was like, dude, one of the things I love about you is that you, more than almost anybody I have ever met, are just so comfortable with yourself. Like, you really seem to like yourself. And now, I should preface this by saying that, this is a kid that really struggled. 3 different schools before he was done with 8th grade, severe dyslexia, got so severely bullied at a camp that we had to pull him out of it. And the director wrote a long letter apologizing for everything. Like, this kid has been through the ringer. And he said to me, well, Mom, he said, I realized and he said, this happened during quarantine. During quarantine, when I got to hang out with you and Dad and, my 2 older sisters, all 4 people who love me, I just started to realize just because other people pick on me or hate me doesn't mean I have to hate myself. Like, I could actually just like myself. Like, I could really just allow myself to love myself. And I got to be honest with you, from that moment, I can really almost pinpoint that during the pandemic, like this kid's chronic anxiety was gone. He developed this very positive attitude, and it all began from this insight around, hey, if the world is not giving me the acceptance and the love that we all are seeking, maybe I can just give it to myself.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I never thought about meeting the alarm of anxiety with acts of self-love.
Yeah. And that's, it's counterintuitive on some level, because when you're anxious, you don't feel loving. Basically your social engagement system is shut off. You're in survival mode. So when you're in survival mode and survival physiology, you go into the emotional part of your brain, which is, evolutionarily programmed to look for threat. And if there's no threat in your environment, if you're just lying there in bed with the sheets up to your neck, you will find threat because you can make it with your big prefrontal cortex. You can make worries.
Well, not anymore, because we now know that the second you feel the alarm go off, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you do not go upstairs, you go downstairs.
Yep.
You go downstairs.
Amazing. You deeply impacted me today.
Okay, what happened?
Well, the boundaries thing, and I loved that. I feel like I don't have very good boundaries, but then I heard you just say that you were a victim of sexual abuse, which I also am, and I think that part that you were saying to put your hand on your chest, I think my vagus nerve is broken because it made me more anxious.
It's not broken. Push harder and repeat it over and over and over and over and over again, and you will slowly feel yourself come back into your body. So when you have an anxiety response, do you leave your body, or what happens to you?
I shut down.
Okay.
Bed covers, like I don't want to do things, or sometimes I go over the top and exhaust myself.
Okay. So what I want you to try, because I don't actually want you to stay in bed. I think staying in bed is a terrible thing to do. And here's why. When you stay in bed, and are you talking about in the morning? Like you wake up and just want to stay in bed? Mm-hmm. So there's a reason why we feel waves of anxiety and stress in the morning. Number one, when you wake up, your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone, are typically pretty high. Mm-hmm. And so that triggers a kind of dump in terms of your emotional state. The second thing is that if you are waking up and you're not excited about your life, or there's chaos going on, you're going to feel this sense of anticipatory dread. So lying there makes the dread feel worse. Third thing, staring at the ceiling, thinking about your problems, does not solve them. Fourth thing, rolling over and trying to go back to sleep does not change what feels like a nightmare in your life, right? And so what will change it is if you throw off the sheets, put your feet in the ground, and get up, because once you get up, you can get going, and once you get going, you can keep going. What I want you to add to this, though, is the high five in the mirror and the high five to your heart, because before you start your day in a state where you're spiraling, I want you to come back into your body and tell yourself over and over and over again, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved, okay? If you can hear it, it's true. Why do you think when we did that exercise in the audience, you felt a wave of anxiety come?
Because I don't believe it's true.
Okay, that's exactly why you felt that. You felt that because you've been running so fast and so long, because you think as long as you're busy and you're running, nobody can catch you and hurt you. And so slowing down is terrifying. Okay, I had the exact same thing. In fact, it wasn't until this fucking pandemic that I couldn't go out that I really realized that I run to Target and Starbucks and go fill up the car because I wasn't okay being in my body and being still. I was so busy because if I was busy, then I wasn't having to feel the shit I hadn't healed yet. And so when you put your hand on your heart and you started breathing and going, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved, your body was like, oh, no, you aren't. We are running. We are going to Target. We got shit to do. We are not listening to this lady. And your body will fight it because you have trained yourself to run and move and be busy as a protection mechanism. Yeah. And what I'm here to tell you is you are okay. You are safe. And you are loved. and you can heal this.
Thank you.
I
I'll
want,
believe it eventually, you know.
okay,
I'll believe it eventually.
right now, I want you to say it. Say it. Okay, go ahead. Put your hands on your heart. Let's see you do it. You can keep taping.
Okay,
Smart cookie.
Because I will forget.
And I will put a little alarm in your phone. So go ahead. Put your hands on your heart. Here we go. Close your eyes. Press deeper. Press deeper. Okay, now you say it for yourself.
The one I'm struggling.
Yes, you can. That's okay. Breathe in. Here we go. Breathe in. Blow it out. Say it.
I'm safe.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm safe.
I'm safe.
I'm loved.
I'm loved.
Breathe in again. That's great. Now say it again. I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I'm
I'm
safe.
safe. I'm loved.
Let's do it again. Breathe in. That's great. Really great deep breath. Blow it out. Say it again.
I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm loved.
Kind of weird, isn't it?
It's super weird.
What do you feel?
I feel it a little more.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Because there are moments when, there's all kinds of stuff going around you. And what you need to know is that no matter what's going around you, you always have you. And you can bring yourself back into your body. You can bring yourself back home. You can settle yourself in this moment. And if you can tune out the noise and come right back in here and feel yourself literally flip the switch and find some power, then you can take a deep breath and face whatever's coming. You don't have to run anymore.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm talking to myself too.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So inspiring.
You're so
I want to
inspired.
be like you one day.
You are like me one day. You're running from your fears. You're anxious. You're doing your best. You're reminding yourself every day. You get triggered by shit. This is what my life looks like. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I am creating these tools doesn't mean I'm not using them every day. Yeah. Okay, great. You're amazing. I want to go to Kim, who is in Massachusetts and has a question that she wants to ask me. Hey, Kim.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great.
So my question just has to do with this COVID-19 epidemic or pandemic has heightened my sense that I'm not where I should be in life. And I think I coined a term in my head. It's the green grass trifecta. The grass greener in the past, the grass should be greener now, and the grass might be better in the future, or it should be. So that's the way I'm feeling. I feel like that the constant rumination over this is just causing me to get into that funk. And, I have a schedule and I put those best practices forward to try to make myself feel great every day.
So can you describe for me, what is it that you are ruminating about that makes you feel like that you're stuck in this green grass trifecta, as you call it?
Well, I just, everyone has started to lose their jobs. I know that intellectually, I know that due to the pandemic, it does not discriminate against any sector of the economy. I mean, I just read an article that even healthcare workers, physicians' assistants for like elective surgery, for example, and some doctors are being furloughed or losing their jobs. So I know it affects everyone, but just the idea that I could be on shaky ground and possibly lose my job if the company tries, wants to make cutbacks, and it's mind-boggling to me that these companies have such a short runway of 1 month, and then the entire economy goes to hell. And so I know that it really may leave no person behind in terms of those effects. And so I wish I wasn't on such shaky ground, and that bothers.
So let me ask you a question though. So is the worrying that you're doing and the ruminating mostly about losing your job, or are you beating yourself up and punishing yourself in other ways too?
It's about that, but I guess I am beating myself up and punishing myself for like not amassing massive amounts of wealth so that if I did lose my job, I'd just say, okay, well, who cares? I'm going to, Bermuda and, whatever. So that bothers me.
Are you where, push the pandemic or whatever the heck it's called aside, okay? Are you where you thought you would be in life by now?
No, I think, I went through the recession in 2008, which I would like make steps forward and take 3 steps back. So I would undertake a project to like improve my life and get, where I wanted to go. And then something seemed to always happen, economically, or just, I have some big loss in my life. And so it's the same thing here. I was starting to move forward and I had a really good plan for where I wanted to be like a year from now. And I was implementing that plan and I had really great traction on that. And then boom, this thing happened. So
okay.
We are again.
Okay. So here's the opportunity for you. The opportunity for you is to not make the pandemic personal, because the thing that will kill your ass is here we go again. When you start to buy into a narrative that there is a negative pattern in your life where you get fucked over, that just becomes louder and louder and louder. And what you're having right now is a crisis in your own resignation. And you're seeing the pandemic as a gigantic reason for why it's never now going to work out. And so what I want you to use this moment in time for is I want you to use this moment in time to start to truly win the battle with your own resignation. Because I used to have a story, and sometimes it crops up when I get really pissed off about things. I used to have the story that I'm like the bad news bears. I'm like that little sports team that everybody underestimates, and I never have the right equipment, and I barely win by the seat of my pants, and then everybody underestimates me, and I never get the recognition that I deserve, and why the hell does things have to be so fucking hard for me? And I'll tell you something. I thought I won that battle because I started to have some success. I've been working on my mindset. I've made a bazillion changes in my life. This is all when the 5-second rule book started to kick in. My speaking career takes off. I feel the momentum. Hell, I got a daytime syndicated talk show. I thought, holy shit, I have won the lottery. And all of a sudden, talk show's canceled. My book contract is canceled. Every single speech I have this year, but for one, is canceled. And I feel like I have been kicked back all the way to square one again. And every time I look on social media, everybody's a life coach and an expert in anxiety. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're a movie star. Get out of my lane. Like, when is it going to be my turn? And this is coming from a person with millions of followers. And the reason why it surfaces up in a time like this is because I feel vulnerable. I feel insignificant. I feel scared. I feel powerless. And so that old story starts to bubble up again because it's familiar. And so the opportunity for me and for you is to use this pandemic to extinguish that shit. Because I'll tell you something, you are sitting in a house, you have a job, you have your health, you are a lucky son of a gun. And if you can get that shit out of your mind, you have the ability to use this moment of time to do what you need to do so that when we come out of this in search of a hug and some vitamin D, you are ready to sprint toward that thing. You have used this moment of time to think about, wow, all these goals that I have, the world's going to be a little bit different, which creates way more opportunity for people that are positive and that are strategic. But if you and I allow our own rumination and our own bullshit story about the past to sabotage you right now and to take you down a dark tunnel, you will not only waste all of this time, but you will emerge from this moment with more evidence for why it's going to be harder than ever. And I'm telling you right now, if you can get positive, if you can say, bullshit, this is happening for a reason. And you know what? I am going to use this time to make my plan better. I'm going to use this time to think about the things that I wasn't thinking about. I'm going to use this time to think about the opportunities that may be waiting for me. And every time something pops into your mind like, fuck, what if I lose my job? I don't have the savings. This house isn't as big as I wanted it to be. Shit. You're going off course. You are allowing things into your mind that, first of all, you don't need to worry about right now because it hasn't happened.
Well, I even texted a friend of mine earlier and I was catastrophizing, and I'm not really a catastrophizer.
Why are you doing it? Why?
I said, what if I need to go to a homeless shelter and the homeless shelters are overrun or the government cuts funding to the homeless shelter?
So why are you doing this?
I don't know. I guess I was searching for having a plan B and a plan C.
I think it's something deeper. I think you're seeking reassurance. I think you feel extremely vulnerable right now. And you are seeking reassurance. And your form of seeking reassurance is to get super dramatic.
Right.
So that everybody's like, oh, just calm down. Calm down. How old were you when you started doing that?
I'm really not, as a habit, a catastrophizer. But I did, as a young person, to get like my father to swoop in and comfort me or help me, I used to have to get very loud about it. So I crashed my car in freshman year of college, and it was a
purpose
experience, and it took him days to call me. And then I said, Dad, and I had to cry and get louder.
This is what's happening.
This
is it right here. This is the pattern that's repeating right here. You feel vulnerable. You want somebody to come in and rescue you because life feels fucking hard right now. And catastrophizing is a way to get people to reassure you. I know more about anxiety than most people on the planet because I struggled with it for 25 years. And I also used it to manipulate the hell out of people. Not
interesting what you say about that. That's an interesting take. I've heard you say that, that people with anxiety, they just get other people to fix their problems.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it allows you to get out of having to do the work that scares you. Right. And what scares you right now is putting your head down because you had a plan and your plan was starting to work, and now having to readjust the plan. Me too. I had a plan too. My plan was to be a daytime talk show host. It was to write another book and publish it at the end of the year. It was to do another 60 speeches this year. It was to launch another course. All that shit just went, it scares the hell out of me to think about how am I going to reinvent myself in this moment. And it's easier to scroll through social media and be pissed off at people who look like they're ahead of you. It's easier to walk out of my office and walk into my husband's office and go, oh, what if this happens? And what if that happens? What if the other thing happens? And then he reassures me, all of which wastes fucking time and energy. You have something you want to do. What is it?
Well, I wanted to move to Colorado. And
fabulous.
And I was making headway on that.
Fabulous.
No one's talking, no more interviews, no more hiring, no more anything.
Well, so what? You can't go anywhere anyway right now.
Right.
And so when this is over, guess what? Real estate prices are going to be awfully low. There are going to be a lot of places to rent.
Right.
There'll be plenty of things that you can figure out. If you lose your job, you could easily be unemployed in Massachusetts or in Colorado.
Right.
So there is nothing preventing you from moving to Colorado except for getting in your car and going when you can. Nothing has changed. You are just nervous because the plan that you had changed. Right. You can still get somewhere else. Life just told you it wasn't going to work that way. And so life is testing you. How bad do you want it?
Badly.
There you go. Then stop bitching about it. Stop texting your friends. Stop worrying about losing your job and start figuring out where the hell are you going to move exactly in Colorado, and what are the companies you want to be targeting, and who can you be networking with online, and what kinds of things can you be doing in terms of stalking those folks and their comments and getting to know them online and doing all kinds of stuff to tee yourself up so that when this ends, you're ready to go.
That's true. I should deepen my plan at this point. aside, it was working well just on the surface, like, oh, apply for this, these people would call me back, and so on and so forth. But now I probably have to dig deeper.
Yeah, you do. We all do, because this is not something that's happening to you personally. Look, we didn't choose for this to happen, but you get to choose how you show up to it.
Right.
And this is an opportunity for a huge breakthrough for you, because you strike me as somebody who is very resigned and somebody who doesn't believe that shit's going to work out for her.
I know it, and the truth is, if I go back historically, it has always worked out. I said, oh, I want to live here and do this and drive that car, and it's always worked. So I don't know.
Why don't you believe in yourself?
I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that at this moment. Why, or write down all the evidence for why I should, and go back in history and say, well, you did it this time and this time and this time and this time. And so that's evidence that, the
evidence isn't convincing you, because you're sitting here telling me about it in a very flat, unemotional way. You have a narrative that your life is hard.
Right.
And that it's not fair. And I don't know where that came from, but it's not serving you. And I would be willing to guess that it's either somebody else's story that you just started to adopt as your own, or it is something that you made up because of something that happened to you as a kid.
Right.
And as you have gone through life, surviving everything and overcoming everything, the story that life is hard and it's not fair has remained. You see, life is just life. And you are the one that's deciding that it's not fair and it's hard. I want you to start telling yourself a different story. This shit's going to get easy. I'm a problem solver. I'm a survivor. If anyone's going to come out of COVID-19 and this bullshit, it's going to be me, because I'm going to be in a car driving to Colorado to meet up with all these people I've been networking with, because my life is easy because I'm a doer and I believe in myself. That is your core issue, is you are telling a narrative about your life. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. What I know is it doesn't fucking serve you. And that's what's got to change.
Yeah, I've overcome a lot of obstacles, and they were all kind of unfortunate events that I couldn't control as a kid and moving along, even though I had a wonderful childhood. But there have been obstacles. And so I do feel like in many ways I'm like a survivor instead of just thriving. I'm surviving. And that's not, you're right.
What does it mean to thrive in your mind?
For everything to come, not easily, like, oh, here, come give it to me and slap it on my lap. But for me to say, this is what I really want to do. And then the steps move along and things happen and they come through in a positive way. And I get what I want relatively easily instead of having such a struggle.
Well, what if you're the only part of the struggle? What if you're the one? And I'm not talking about a struggle out there. I'm talking about the struggle in here. I'm looking for a little, oh, here it is. Hold on. I've been using this a lot. Is this one? I don't know. This will work. It's I've got another word on this, but oh, here it is. Let me see. So there's, oh, is this going the right way? Can you see this? External, internal. There's external struggle and internal struggle. This is the struggle that needs to end. Right. Thriving would mean not getting all that stuff. Thriving would mean that you are doing what you're doing without punching yourself mentally and emotionally the entire time you're doing it.
Right, removing the resistance. It's almost like when they're doing a roof and there's tar on the street and you drive over it and it just tacks on to your tire. Same thing. You just have to get rid of that because
here's the thing that has changed my life and always diffuses the bullshit stuff that I tell myself about being the bad news bears. You ready? The thing that I'm in right now is preparing me for the chapter I can't see that's coming. And when I look at my life that way, I don't see anything as a failure. Yeah, of course, I just told you a story that my talk show got canceled and my book got canceled and my speeches got canceled. That's just what happened. I can either tell myself a story that all that shit got canceled because I'm a fucking loser, or I can tell myself a different story, which is all that stuff got canceled because it was supposed to. I wasn't supposed to do that talk show. I was supposed to learn something doing it. I was supposed to meet people doing it. I was supposed to gain some sort of skill doing it that is preparing me for the next thing that's amazing that I can't see. And that's already coming true because that's been the story of my life. If I really want to tell it in a positive spin, of course the book was supposed to get canceled because that publisher was a pain in the ass to deal with. And I was a year late in delivering a manuscript. I wonder why, because I wasn't all that inspired to write it. So it prepared me for never doing a deal again that didn't quite feel right. Thank God it got canceled. And speeches getting canceled, it's now blowing my mind. Of course I lost a shitload of revenue, but you know what? It's making me think about the fact that the whole world has changed and there's so much opportunity in doing training and events virtually. And now, like, how can I problem solve in that? And so there is something in what's happening in the struggle that is meant for you. And when you flip it into a faith that is preparing you for something, and the biggest possible thing that you're supposed to learn is how not to suffer internally and how not to struggle internally. And when I say suffer and struggle, I don't mean the daily bullshit and the emotions that rise and fall. That happens to all of us. Of course, you see something on Instagram or social media and it triggers you and it makes you feel inferior. Let it last for 10 seconds and then keep going because you have a faith and a bigger belief that something amazing is coming. And this mental battle that you got to learn how to win, you're not going to get the reward that you're supposed to get until you learn how to stop struggling and how to stop adding all of that tar that you talk about.
100%.
And what's that?
Is it 100%? And that's why I was saying about going back, and if I just journaled it or something and I said, look, this is what got me to where I am now, and I could see every step of the way, then writing that down would get it in my head, which will get it into my heart. That
yes, you can do that, and that is one thing to start to do to reprogram the story you tell about your life. The second thing is a tolerance policy for allowing that shit to stay there. And I would use the 5-second rule. Count down backwards to yourself. The moment you start getting one of those negative thoughts, I do not do this anymore. I am going to live in a mindset that things are unfolding and I don't even know how or what or why yet. I just know I'm not allowed to struggle anymore. I'm supposed to remind myself that I survived this stuff and it's time to start thriving and being patient and trusting through this instead of being so about it all.
That's how I am. I need to stop.
You know why I know? Because it's how I am. And if I let myself get stuck up here, I become this tense ball of frustration. And the second I start to feel that in my body, that is an old fucking story. Get it out of here. I do not believe that anymore. I believe that if I do the work and if I keep in a space in my head and in my mind, in my body, that this is unfolding in a way that I cannot see, but it is preparing me for something amazing that's coming. You stay in that space of gratitude, you stay in that space of faith, you stay in that space, and you will win every single time.
So let's talk about loving you, the you of you, and how that is such a diversion from what you've been practicing doing yourself.
Oh, that's so true. Oh my God. You know, it's so funny because here I invent this thing called the 5-second rule out of dumb luck, drunk on bourbon. I literally share it by mistake on a TEDx stage. And I invented this thing to help me get out of bed during the worst moment of my life and finally face the issues that my husband and I had gotten ourselves into. It spreads around the world. I use the 5-second rule to build a business, to be productive, to, do. But it wasn't until I discovered the high five habit that I actually understood how deeply I had been betting against myself. How every step of the way I had been criticizing myself or focusing on what was going wrong. That when I stood in front of the mirror, Kathy, I did not see a successful woman. I did not see somebody that was, out there making a huge difference. I saw what was wrong with me. I think for the last 45 years, I have either criticized or ignored the woman I saw staring back at me in the mirror. And so, like the high five habit, I'm sorry, I just kept barging along. Is there something you wanted to?
No, I'm just taking it in. You're right where you need to be. Keep going.
And so, the high five habit, it did not begin like some big business strategy. I didn't go, okay, I had the 5-second rule. I need to write a book about the 5 something. What is it? Like, let's manufacture something. Oh, Atomic Habits is good. Let's get a habit book. Like, that's not what happened, because that's not my brand of self-help. My brand of personal development and empowerment is hit rock bottom, have a challenging moment, resist change, and then come up with something that sounds so stupid and so ridiculous that it couldn't possibly be something that would actually work. And then when it actually starts working, not only for you, but people who follow you, you better fucking figure out how this thing works, Matt. Like, why is this working? And so the high five habit's no different. I have been trying to write a book, Kathy, for 5 years. The 5-second rule was self-published 5 years ago. I have dyslexia and ADHD. I can create an audiobook like in a day.
Yeah.
Writing something, forget about it. I bet I have written 7 books in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
All of them sucked. And what happened for me, this is not a pandemic book, but what happened for me, because we're all sick of hearing about the pandemic, but what happened for me is, when the COVID hit, we all have that moment. Like, I'm sure you remember the moment you knew, oh my God, like this is changing everything.
Yeah.
What was it for you?
When they said 2 weeks, the kids would be off school. And then they said, no, it's going to be a month. And I had that feeling of like things closing in and the claustrophobia, like, how will I be able to exist now with us not being able to go out to even a park? What if this would stay this way? Yeah, it was right then. I couldn't believe they were like closing school.
Yeah.
Months.
Yeah. For me, it was a Wednesday in March in 2020. And we were taping this talk show. It was my dream to be a daytime talk show host. And at the age of 51, I got the opportunity to do it. And so we had shot 167 shows at the CBS Broadcast Center. And all of a sudden, somebody comes into the studio space and says they found COVID in the building and you need to evacuate. You got to be out of here in 5 minutes. The fire trucks are outside. And like that, show canceled, fired from my dream job. Didn't get to say goodbye to the 130 people that I had been working with for over a year.
It is so painful.
But hey, everything is preparing you for something. Everything. And so I get into my car and I'm driving home, and I realized as the New York City skyline was disappearing, and my daughter was in Spain, and she called and said, I just heard the news that they're shutting down the borders. I need to get you got to get me out of here. And then I hung up with her, and all of a sudden it was my daughter in California. USC is shutting down, Mom. What is it? What's happening? What's going on? And I thought, oh my God, what is about to happen? And so in a matter of 2 weeks, my a book contract that I had got canceled, and they wanted the money back. My every speech I had booked for more than a year started canceling. And that was the beginning. The kids come home, they're in a state of turmoil. We all experienced it, right? And I think for those first 3 weeks, it was like a complete blur. I basically never got out of my pajamas. I started drinking Bloody Marys at about 11 a.m. We watched Harry Potter marathons and Glee. We watched that season, like all of it. And then all of a sudden, one morning, I woke up and I just felt the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Yeah.
I woke up and I started feeling a couple things. I felt, do I need to reinvent myself again?
Oh my God.
And then I thought, am I about to lose all my money again? And I'm like, I'm too old for this shit. I've worked too hard. Like you go into that like mode where like, why is this happening to me? I'm a good person. I've worked so hard. Like you like kind of go at yourself. And so I'm thinking this and I'm like, okay, get up, just get up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I get up. I make my bed. I always make my bed. And then I drag myself to the bathroom and I start brushing my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, Kathy, I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And I think, oh my God, you look like hell. And the gray hair is coming in and there's dark circles under my eyes and my neck is all saggy and one boob is hanging lower than the other. And I felt sorry for the woman I saw in the mirror. She looked exhausted. She looked scared. She looked overwhelmed. And as soon as you start to go down a negative path in your mind, it will continue taking you there. And so I immediately drift to everything I'm worried about. I'm worried about my parents. I'm worried about the world. I'm worried about frontline workers. I'm worried about COVID. I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about my employees. I'm worried about what's going to happen to my business. I'm worried about everything. And the interesting thing in that moment is if you had walked in, I would have been able to pivot on a dime, especially we women. That's what we do. I would have been like, Kathy, don't you dare. Don't you dare. I know this isn't fair. I know you don't deserve. If anybody can handle this, Kathy, you can. You're going to pick your ass up. You're going to pull on your big girl panties and you are going to get your ass back out there, right?
Yeah.
You can do that for anybody else. But there I was without a bra on, my attitude in the gutter, overwhelmed by my life, stressed out, no energy, last on my list, an impossible amount of shit to deal with, just defeated. And I couldn't think of a damn thing to say to myself. And, you know, the other thing is I probably wouldn't have believed it anyway.
Right.
But for whatever reason, as cheesy as it sounds, I literally raised my hand and gave the woman I saw in a mirror a high five because she needed it. And, you know, it wasn't like lightning struck, but something shifted in me. You know, I felt my shoulders drop. I felt my chin lift. I laughed because it's so dumb standing there high-fiving yourself in your underwear. My God. And it's interesting because I also felt like, okay, you know, come on now, Mel. Don't be so dramatic. You can handle this. And I left the bathroom. Now, it was the second morning that something really clicked with me because I woke up, again, all the same problems, all the same overwhelm, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I get out of bed. I make the bed. I drag myself into the bathroom. And right as I was getting to the bathroom, that's when I felt something I've actually never felt before in my entire life. And that is this. You know, when you are about to go see somebody you really like, and you're going to meet him for a cup of coffee or like a, you know, like a glass of wine or whatever, and you're about to enter the cafe. What do you feel, Kathy, as you're about to see somebody you like?
You're excited and there's like this anticipation. And so you're already feeling good vibes because you know what that person's like and being in their energy. Yeah.
Totally. That's exactly how I felt sitting in your Zoom room. Like, let me in, Kathy, let's go. Come on. I can't wait to see you and meet you. I actually felt that about seeing myself. I have never felt that in my entire life. I have never been excited to see the human being Mel Robbins. I have been excited to see my outfit. I've been excited to see if the eyeshadow looks good. I have never looked forward to seeing myself, the human. And so I walk in and I'm a little bit more present this morning. And I'm brushing my teeth and I put my toothbrush down and I take a moment. And I really look at myself. And I don't even see my face. I see a human being. What's coming up for you?
I mean, that's just so beautiful. Like, what you just said, we think about that when we're about to go see our friend or, you know, the other mom who her daughter's in your daughter's class, and there's like an excitement, like you feel like this is like a gift to spend time with this person, but you had never thought about that. And I just think about the women and the men who I've met in my life, the people who listen to this show, who they're so good, Mel, and they're so wired to achieve, but they're only as good as like their last achievement.
Mm.
So there is nothing other than like, well, what's my big post today on Facebook for everyone to see that I earned it? I earned it today. But like inherently, like me just being me, no, I've never heard anyone say like, what a gift to get to be in that person's energy, my own energy today with myself, to see myself.
Yeah. It's everything. And so, you know, I sat and I looked at the woman I saw in the mirror and I thought to myself, well, who does she need me to be today? And what game in life matters to her? And how could I actually just like move the ball down the field today? And so I thought about it. And I thought in that moment, based on what was going on, that who she needed me to be was more optimistic about our ability to get through this. And the game that I wanted to play was showing up in a different way for our kids, because they were looking at Chris and I about what was happening in the world.
Yeah.
And so I raised my hand and I like high-fived my reflection. And so there's a couple things that I just want to explain first about when, you know, you do this, because the beauty of this habit, and this is just the first habit in the book, and we're going to talk about it. And trust me, we are going to get down to the achievement stuff next, because it's really important part of why everybody resists high-fiving themselves and why they feel that it's weird. And I'm going to unpack that in a very methodical way, because thematically, when you feel that this is weird or you resist giving yourself this support and celebration, what's contained in the resistance is the key to understanding why you don't have what you want. And it's also the key to unlocking the cage that you're trapped in.